When the galaxy turned its back on us, humanity answered the call. The fall of the Valkyrie Empire. We once believed ourselves invincible. The Valkyrie Empire, scientific pioneers, masters of quantum engineering, and the undisputed rulers of the galactic core. We had built towering cities on planets where no life had dared to exist before. We unlocked the secrets of faster-than-light travel, while lesser species still toiled with chemical propulsion. We had achieved what most civilizations could only dream of, and in our arrogance, we thought we had conquered every challenge the universe could throw at us. Then, the plague came. At first, it was nothing, just a few isolated cases on the outer rim colonies, a viral anomaly, easily contained, or so we thought. Our medical AI systems analyzed it, dismissed it, and declared it a non-threat, a statistical improbability that would burn itself out in mere cycles. But it didn't. It spread. Fast. Too fast. Within weeks, entire cities were overrun. The virus, Crimson Rot, as it would come to be known, didn't just kill. It unmade us. It consumed our biology at a molecular level, dissolving tissue into a sickening crimson sludge. Victims screamed as their bodies liquefied from within, their very cells betraying them. Families disintegrated in each other's arms. Whole generations were lost overnight. We sent distress calls to the galactic community, to our allies, to the great, so-called enlightened species of the universe. They responded with silence. The Ardent Coalition, the most technologically advanced medical society in the known galaxy, claimed that intervention would compromise their genetic sanctity. The Proximan Federation, known for their vast resources, deemed our situation an internal matter. The Orion Dominion simply cut off all trade and communication, abandoning us as if we had already been written out of history. Even the Galactic Council, the so-called arbiters of peace and cooperation, spent months debating protocols while billions perished. They sent us condolences. They drafted proposals. They held meetings. But no one came to help. Our empire, our pride, our people, we were dying. Desperation and the last signal. When it became clear that no one would come, we turned inward. Our scientists, our brightest minds, pushed themselves beyond exhaustion. But for every cure we attempted, the virus adapted. It was unlike anything we had ever seen. Learning, evolving, countering. It didn't just infect us, it outthought us. And then the riots began. When people lose hope, when they realize their leaders have failed them, they turn on each other. Cities burned. The sick were thrown into mass graves, sometimes before they were even dead. Some tried to flee, carrying the virus with them. We were forced to fire on our own ships. Our once proud empire had become a graveyard. I, Admiral Dren Veros, sent the last message. Not one of pride, not one of strength. It was a plea. A desperate, humiliating, pathetic plea for anyone to help us. We sent it out on every frequency, across every known channel, into the void itself. And then, when all hope was lost, when I was prepared to watch the last remnants of my people fade into nothingness, a single reply came. The humans arrive. At first, we didn't believe it. The primitive species, an insignificant race from the far reaches of an unremarkable solar system, the humans. We had dismissed them once, too warlike, too unpredictable, too reckless. The Galactic Council had denied them full membership, calling them technologically inferior and culturally unstable. Their history was one of war, struggle, and chaos. They had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel, barely scratching the surface of interstellar diplomacy. And yet, they answered. The message was simple. We're coming. No demands, no negotiations, no bureaucratic protocols, just a promise. They called their fleet the Hope Initiative. The name sounded ridiculous to us. Naive, foolish. Hope had long abandoned us. And yet, when their ships entered our sector, something happened that no advanced species in the galaxy had ever managed before. They broke the quarantine. A different kind of science. The first human ship to make contact was the U.S. Polaris, a medical vessel unlike anything we had seen before, not because of its technology, but because of its people. Dr. Evelyn Carter was the first human I met. She was small compared to us, fragile-looking, with soft features and tired eyes. But her gaze was sharp, piercing. She had an expression I hadn't seen in a long time. Determination. "You're infected," she said matter-of-factly, glancing at my shaking hands, my deteriorating skin. "Yes," I admitted. "I have days left." "Then let's not waste time." Her team moved quickly, with an efficiency that was almost unsettling. They didn't wait for protocols or committees or approval. They simply acted. They brought machines that looked crude by our standards. Manual surgical tools instead of automated nanodrones. Physical monitors instead of quantum-linked AI diagnostics. Their methods were primitive, outdated, obsolete. And yet, they worked. While our medical AI systems were too perfect, too rigid to combat the virus's chaotic mutations, the humans were different. Their doctors thought like the virus. They adapted. They improvised. They didn't see it as an equation to be solved. They saw it as a battle to be won. And most of all, they did something we had long forgotten how to do. They took risks. "Your medicine is too careful," Dr. Carter explained. "You treat science like a sacred doctrine. But medicine isn't about perfection. It's about survival." And for the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Hope. The war for survival begins. The humans weren't just here to help. They were here to fight. They set up makeshift hospitals in ruined cities. They deployed emergency response teams faster than any bureaucratic species could comprehend. They didn't ask for permission. They didn't wait for approval. They simply did what needed to be done. They fought the plague like they have fought every challenge in their own brutal history, with relentless, stubborn, maddening perseverance. And when the rest of the galaxy saw what they were doing, they panicked. The Galactic Council called it reckless. The Proximan Federation called it suicidal. The Orion Dominion threatened economic sanctions. But none of it mattered. Because for the first time in recorded history, a species had defied the galactic order, not for conquest, not for power, not for wealth. They did it simply because it was the right thing to do. And that changed everything. The humans' impossible cure. The humans had arrived. Against all odds, against the collective indifference of the so-called advanced species of the galaxy, they had come. And now, they stood in the ashes of our once great empire, staring down a disease that had defied every known scientific principle. Their ships were small, primitive by our standards. No quantum-enhanced biolabs, no eye-driven research stations, no automated nanite swarms. Just humans, flesh and blood creatures who still relied on manual tools, hands-on medicine, and intuition over pure data. I had spent decades among the greatest minds in the galaxy. I had stood at the helm of our fleet, commanding the finest warships ever built. I had witnessed technological marvels beyond comprehension. And yet, in that moment, watching the humans unload their equipment, barking orders in a language full of strange guttural sounds, I had never seen anything more advanced. They did not hesitate. They did not cower. They did not stop to debate the morality of intervention, the economic impact, or the political ramifications. They just got to work. Humanity's first patient. I was the first Valkyrie to receive the human treatment. By then, I was already in the final stages of infection. My vision blurred, my breath came in ragged gasps, my skin had begun to peel away in dry, crumbling patches. Every joint ached. My cells screamed in agony as the virus waged war against my body, tearing me apart at the molecular level. Our own medical systems had already deemed me terminal. Too far gone for intervention. Too late for salvation. And yet Dr. Evelyn Carter stood before me, scanning my deteriorating body with a device that looked like something a child would assemble from scraps. Her hazmat suit was patched in places with something called duct tape. It looked ridiculous, crude, laughably inefficient. But her eyes, they were the sharpest thing I had ever seen. "You're dying," she said, not with pity, not with sorrow, just fact. "Yes," I rasped. She exhaled. "All right then. Let's fix that." A Valkyrie would have accepted their fate. A scientist from the Ardent Coalition would have performed a dozen more scans, tested 100 more theories. A doctor from the Proximate Federation would have declared the situation impossible. But humans don't accept impossible. The cure that shouldn't exist. The human medical team gathered around me. They spoke in rapid bursts, exchanging ideas in a way that defied every protocol I had ever known. No rigid hierarchy, no painstaking deliberations, just pure, unfiltered problem-solving. They worked like a battlefield unit, each doctor covering the weaknesses of the others. One monitored my vitals, another mixed chemicals, a third called out what sounded like completely random suggestions. They argued. They contradicted each other. They changed their minds. And somehow, impossibly, it worked. Dr. Carter prepared a serum. It was a fusion of my own biochemistry and human intuition. My people had spent months trying to fight the virus on its own terms, attempting to isolate and eradicate it with quantum precision nanotechnology. The humans, however, had taken a different approach. "We're not curing you," Dr. Carter explained as she loaded a thick, silver liquid into a primitive injection device. "We're teaching your body how to fight." They had seen something that none of our hyper-advanced AI systems had detected. The virus wasn't just a disease. It was an adaptive organism, a rogue experiment from an unknown source, designed to force genetic evolution at an accelerated rate. It wasn't just killing us, it was trying to change us. But it was failing. Every mutation it introduced was incompatible with our quantum-augmented physiology. Instead of enhancing us, it was breaking us. Our cells were rejecting the changes, self-destructing instead of adapting. So the humans decided to cheat. They re-engineered the virus, stripping away its deadliest traits while preserving its potential. Then they combined it with a cocktail of human immunotherapy techniques, retroviral engineering, and something called gene priming. It was reckless. It was untested. It was, by every galactic medical standard, suicidal. And yet, as the serum coursed through my body, something changed. The pain spiked. My vision went white. My heart stopped. For a moment, I felt myself slipping into the void. I was dying. Then, I woke up. A new kind of life. I inhaled, and for the first time in weeks, my lungs did not burn. My skin, whole. My vision, clear. The virus was gone. No, not gone. Change. Integrated. My body had accepted the modifications, completing what the virus had failed to do. My muscles felt stronger. My reflexes, sharper. My mind, clearer. I was better. Dr. Carter grinned, her eyes bloodshot from exhaustion. "Well, look at that. The first post-plague Valkyrie. How do you feel?" I stared at my reflection, hardly recognizing the being that looked back at me. I swallowed. "I feel alive." She clapped her hands together. "Good. Now let's save the rest of your people." The galactic backlash. The humans wasted no time. They replicated the serum, mass-producing it using nothing but repurposed cargo bays and repurposed industrial tools. They set up medical stations in every major settlement, working around the clock with terrifying efficiency. Within days, the death toll slowed. Within weeks, the infection rate reversed. The plague, once thought unstoppable, was now losing. And the rest of the galaxy? They panicked. The Galactic Council demanded immediate cessation of all human medical activities, citing reckless interference. The Proximate Federation called for sanctions against humanity for their unauthorized genetic experimentation. The Orion Dominion, ever the opportunists, tried to buy exclusive rights to the cure, offering humanity vast resources in exchange for control. The humans, of course, ignored them. "We're not selling the cure," Dr. Carter stated bluntly in a press conference broadcast across the galaxy. "We're giving it away. For free." The council was furious. The pharmaceutical syndicates saw billions in profit vanish overnight. The so-called enlightened species of the galaxy watched as everything they had built, centuries of economic control, of bureaucratic dominance, began to crumble. Because for the first time in galactic history, a species had done the impossible. They had saved an empire without asking for anything in return. They had defied the galactic order. And the universe would never be the same again. The war for the cure. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had not only stopped the crimson rot, but had transformed it into something beneficial. The disease that once liquefied bodies had now become the foundation for an evolutionary breakthrough. It should have been a moment of triumph, a testament to human ingenuity, perseverance, and sheer, reckless defiance. Instead, it became a war. Because the moment humanity announced that the cure was free, the galaxy's most powerful forces decided they couldn't allow it to exist. A threat to the galactic order. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. Normally, such an event would require months of bureaucratic procedures, deliberations, and diplomatic back-channeling. But this time, the panic was immediate. The very foundation of galactic medicine, the cornerstone of power for countless empires, pharmaceutical conglomerates, and ruling factions, had been shattered. For millennia, medical advancements were controlled, regulated, and most importantly, sold at a premium. Life itself had a price tag, and the richest species dictated who received care and who was left to die. Humanity had broken that system in a matter of weeks. Ambassador Lorzeth Shivin of the Orion Dominion, a towering figure with luminous golden scales and piercing black eyes, slammed his clawed fist against the council podium. His voice echoed through the grand chamber, dripping with outrage. "These primitives have committed the greatest crime in galactic history. They have destabilized the medical economy, upended our trade agreements, and undermined our governing authority. This reckless interference cannot go unanswered." A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly. The Proximan Federation, the largest trade empire in known space, chimed in next. Their representative, a being of fluid-like form encased in a protective exosuit, spoke with mechanical precision. By distributing an unregulated genetic-altering serum without oversight, the humans have introduced an existential threat. This biological contamination could lead to unforeseen mutations, evolutionary instability, and cross-species disruption. Their actions are reckless, dangerous, and a direct violation of interstellar medical law. Then came the ultimatum. Humanity was to cease all distribution of the cure immediately. All shipments were to be recalled. The Hope Initiative was to be disbanded. The serum was to be placed under Galactic Council jurisdiction and made exclusive to government-approved medical entities. The humans' response? A single two-word transmission from Dr. Evelyn Carter herself. Hell no. The first strike. The retaliation was swift. Within 48 hours, the Galactic Council declared the Hope Initiative illegal. Human medical ships were classified as rogue vessels. Supply convoys were blockaded, docking permissions revoked, and any species found assisting humanity was threatened with economic sanctions. But they didn't stop there. The Orion Dominion, ever the enforcers of the status quo, deployed a fleet. Not a full invasion force. No, they still underestimated humanity too much for that. Instead, they sent what they called a strategic containment detachment. 12 warships to intercept and confiscate all human medical efforts by force. Their first target? The colony of Vectos 9, one of the last Valkyrie worlds still struggling with the final stages of the Crimson Rot. A world where the cure had only just begun to take hold, where millions still depended on human intervention. Admiral Drenveros, was there when the Orion fleet arrived. The sky darkened as their warships descended through the thick clouds, weapons primed. Their commander, a sleek and armored predator named High Marshal Cirrus, transmitted a message to the human field hospital stationed in the capital city. You are in violation of galactic law. Surrender all medical technology, or we will seize it by force. For the first time in my life, I thought I was about to witness the moment where humanity backed down. I was wrong. The humans fight back. Dr. Carter didn't even blink. Her response came through every available frequency, broadcast openly to every species watching. Do you hear that, everyone? The Galactic Council just made curing the sick a crime. They're about to bomb a hospital. The galaxy heard. And then, before anyone could react, the human ships began their counterattack. Except, they didn't fire a single shot. No missiles, no laser blasts, no planetary defenses activated. Instead, their ships moved. The Hope Initiative's supply fleet, small, unarmed, and laughably primitive by military standards, ran the blockade at full speed, weaving through the gaps in the Orion Formation. They executed impossible maneuvers, evading incoming fire with agility that defied reason. Cargo haulers, not warships, dodging and outmaneuvering military cruisers. It wasn't just skill. It was reckless insanity. And when the first Orion warship attempted to disable a human transport by ionizing its engines, something even crazier happened. The cargo hauler exploded. Not in a fiery inferno, but in an electromagnetic burst, a pulse that fried every Orion targeting system in the area. The hauler had been emptied before the battle even began. The humans had rigged it as a decoy. While the Orion forces scrambled to reestablish control, the remaining human ships landed directly on the surface of Vectos 9, offloading massive quantities of the cure into the hands of waiting Valkyrie volunteers. By the time the Orion fleet regained control of their systems, the cure had already been distributed. They could destroy the human ships if they wanted, but it was already too late. The galaxy reacts. The Orion Dominion tried to spin the narrative. They called the humans reckless anarchists. They claimed that their actions had put entire planetary ecosystems at risk. They tried to paint them as criminals, as disruptors, as a threat to galactic stability. But it didn't work. Because while the Council spoke in legal jargon and economic projections, the humans kept saving lives. They kept running blockades. They kept distributing the cure. They kept defying the impossible. And other species started to take notice. For the first time in history, the oppressed, the sick, the desperate, all looked toward Earth, toward humanity, not as conquerors, not as invaders, but as rebels, as saviors. And in that moment, I realized the truth. This wasn't just a medical mission anymore. This was a revolution. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The rise of the human resistance. The battle for Vectos 9 was just the beginning. The humans had done the unthinkable, not just by curing the crimson rot, but by defying the Galactic Council itself. They had turned a humanitarian mission into a revolution, a direct challenge to the power structures that had ruled the stars for millennia. And the rest of the galaxy was watching. Some watched in horror, fearing the chaos humanity might unleash. Others watched in awe, realizing for the first time that their oppressors could be challenged. And some, like me, joined them. I, Admiral Drenvaros, once a loyal servant of the Valkyrie Empire, had just witnessed the impossible. The species we had dismissed as primitive outmaneuvered a superior fleet, saved millions, and made fools of the most powerful forces in the universe. And they were just getting started. The Council's retaliation. The Galactic Council did not take the humiliation lightly. With Vectos 9 lost, they escalated their response. They declared all human medical activities an act of rebellion. Any species caught aiding them would be labeled as traitors. Economic sanctions were enacted against Earth, and human colonies outside their home system were seized by force. The Proximan Federation closed its trade routes. The Orion Dominion placed bounties on all known human doctors and scientists. The Volcari Consortium, a race of ruthless mercenaries, was contracted to hunt down the Hope Initiative wherever they operated. And yet, it wasn't enough, because the humans were no longer alone. The first allies, the Valkyrie, what remained of us, were the first to stand with them. We had lost everything. Our empire had abandoned us. The Council had left us to die. Humanity had saved us when no one else would. And now, it was our turn to return the favor. We didn't have much left. Our fleet was in ruins, our worlds devastated. But what we did have was people. Millions of newly cured Valkyrie, their bodies enhanced by the very virus that had nearly destroyed us. Faster reflexes, sharper minds, a newfound resilience that made us something more than we had been before. So we volunteered. Doctors, soldiers, engineers, we joined the humans, bringing whatever skills we could offer. And we were not alone. The uprising spreads. The humans' defiance had inspired something dangerous, hope. Across the galaxy, oppressed species rose up. The Vashari, a race of labor slaves under the Orion dominion, overthrew their overseers and defected to the growing resistance. The Osheri clans, once traitors forced into the shadows, began smuggling human medical supplies past council blockades. Even factions within the so-called civilized empires, scientists, soldiers, and diplomats, began questioning everything they had been taught about order, power, and control. Because for the first time in history, the galaxy was realizing a simple truth. The Galactic Council had never been about peace. It had been about control. And humanity had just shattered the illusion. The human strategy. Chaos warfare. The Council had overwhelming force. Armadas of warships, legions of soldiers, planetary defense networks. They expected humanity to fight like every other species had before them. Direct conflict, organized battle formations, predictable strategies. But the humans had no intention of playing by their rules. Their strategy was chaos, not just in battle, but in every aspect of their resistance. They hacked Council supply lines, redirecting critical medical shipments to plague-stricken worlds before vanishing. They infiltrated government networks, exposing corruption and secret dealings to the entire galaxy. They used humor as a weapon, broadcasting ridiculous propaganda that made even hardened warriors question the seriousness of their leaders. They fought like insurgents, never engaging directly unless absolutely necessary. Their ships jumped erratically through hyperspace, making them nearly impossible to track. Their ground teams moved like ghosts, setting up hospitals in the most unexpected places, deep within enemy territory, in forgotten ruins, even in abandoned orbital stations that no one thought to check. And perhaps most infuriating of all, they refused to be afraid. While the Council issued threats, humanity issued memes. A particularly famous transmission captured across hundreds of Council channels showed Dr. Evelyn Carter, mid-surgery, flipping off an Orion warlord's holographic demand for surrender. The caption read, "I'm busy saving lives. You want to threaten me? Get in line." It spread like wildfire. The Council had always ruled through fear, but humans didn't scare easily. And the more the Council tried to crush them, the more they grew. The turning point. Operation Lifeblood. Then came the boldest mission yet. The Crimson Rot was still out there. It had been contained, but thousands of worlds still lived under the shadow of infection. The Council had ordered all research on the cure to cease. Any attempts to distribute it would be seen as an act of war. So humanity did the only logical thing. They stole a warship, a Proximan dreadnought, no less, one of the largest medical research vessels in the known galaxy. The mission was insane. A team of exiled Valkyrie engineers, led by the rogue scientist Tivik Voss, infiltrated a Council dockyard. Human cyber warfare specialists hijacked the ship's systems remotely, disabling its security protocols. And then, in a move that defied all logic, the entire vessel simply vanished. The Council scrambled to locate it, scouring hyperspace lanes, interrogating smugglers, launching probes into every known hiding place. Nothing. The ship had disappeared. It would be weeks before they realized the truth. The dreadnought wasn't missing. It had been turned into the largest mobile hospital in the galaxy. Instead of running, the humans had reprogrammed the vessel, stripping away its war systems and converting it into a floating, self-sustaining refuge for the sick, the dying, and the desperate. They called it Lifeblood, and it became a symbol, a beacon in the dark, a declaration that, no matter what the Council did, no matter how hard they tried to suppress the cure, humanity would not stop. Ever. The Council's last warning. The Galactic Council was running out of patience. Their fleets were stretched thin. Their propaganda was failing. Every blockade they imposed was circumvented. Every new restriction was ignored. And every species they oppressed began looking to humanity as a sign that things could change. So they issued one final warning. The full force of the galactic armadas would descend upon humanity's homeworld. Earth would be wiped from existence. It was supposed to break them. Instead, the humans laughed. And Dr. Carter sent her final transmission before the coming storm. A single message, directed at the most powerful rulers in the galaxy. Bring it.